guys, this is Stephanie Zubiri, and welcome to Soulful Feasts, bite-sized information to nourish your body, mind, and spirit. And today we have a very special episode for you. It's all about boundaries and why are they important and key to leading a healthier and happier life. Now, guys, it's so Filipino for us, right? We are non-confrontational people, and this honestly gets us into so much trouble because we take on so much so we can't say no until we feel empty and tapped out, and quite frankly, do not want to be there for anybody but ourselves, right? So I have with me today a really good friend of mine. She is a super extra. We have here Kimi Lu, who is actually someone very special because she started her career as personal life coach, right? And now has moved on to helping leaders. So she creates sacred space for heart-centered leaders who will help you move forward onto your quantum leap and create that sacred ripple effect across the universe. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing now?
Yes.
We are creating that sacred ripple effect. Okay. All right, guys. So let's talk about boundaries. Okay. You know, it's really hard because we're always so pressured into saying
Yes.
yes, right? It's a cultural thing. And, you know, I had a really hard time, particularly with my family, right? Because with our families, you know, there's so much pressure to be like, at least for me, a good girl. And how do you say no to your dad? How do you say no to your mom? How do you say no to, like, you know, it's really hard. And you end up doing things that you're unhappy with. You end up feeling drained. And then you let like anger and resentment build up until it all explodes like one big exploding crock pot, right?
We don't want that.
First of all, what exactly like does healthy boundaries look like?
Okay.
And why do we need them? Why do we need them?
Okay. So first of all, well, just to answer that one, boundaries for me personally, I just defined it this way, actually just maybe a few minutes ago. But I really think that boundaries allow you to be aligned. Okay? Like there needs to be boundaries so that you can say yes to the right things and be able to say no that's not aligned to you.
So align to your values.
Align to your values.
Align to your most authentic self.
Correct. Yes. So the awareness of the values would be key. Like if we don't know that, then we can't even set any kind of boundary because we're not familiar with what our values are.
I understand that. And it's hard because that takes work, right?
Yeah.
You need to take time to take stock of yourself, what makes you feel good, what doesn't make you feel good, how
Right.
you want your life to look like. And sometimes if you haven't done that work, you just basically say yes to everything. And then you don't even know why you feel so miserable.
And then you get burnt out, you get super sad, you just feel blah or lost as well.
Yeah.
So it's not healthy, obviously, when you're feeling all of those things already. If you are feeling that right now, you're watching, you're listening, obviously there's a message there for you, right? Maybe you need to start being aware of what your values are so that you can set healthier boundaries for yourself.
Okay, so those are basically the signs that you need to start placing boundaries, right? So you're feeling lost, you're feeling tired, you're feeling like you can't show up for anybody, right? It's anger, actually,
Yes.
also resentment, frustration. So how do we go about figuring out what healthy boundaries look like to us? Are there any concrete steps or tips?
Concrete steps for our boundaries. I would say that if you don't get to say yes to yourself anymore, right? Like if you keep saying yes to others and not able to put yourself first, then that's a clear sign that you don't have healthy boundaries anymore, right?
And I think mothers have a really hard time with this, right?
my
Like
gosh,
I know, like I was talking to a friend of mine. I was like, "Girl, you gotta release mom guilt." She's like, "Parang it never goes away, right?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, no, it's not true.
Yeah.
We gotta release it because we
Right.
have to be the very best version of ourselves for our
Yes.
kids, right?"
I always say this is the rule, okay, that you are only allowed to give from your overflow. Like when you fill up your cup, only
like
give
that.
from your overflow. Why? Because when you give, and the mothers especially love doing this, like, I'm going to give it my all, right?
Yeah.
But your all isn't 100% anymore. So it's actually a disservice to the people that you're giving it to, right?
Yes.
Because you're only giving like a half version of that. Even if you feel like I'm giving it my all, no, you're not.
No, because you're running on empty.
Yeah, that's
You're
right.
running on empty. You're
Yes.
not your all.
Yes.
You're like 5%.
So really, the rule is only give from your overflow. Make sure you're always full. If you're not full, that's when you actually say no. Like, nope, I can't do it. I'm not 100% yet. Make sure you fill that up and then give from that.
I like that. Okay, so we know we have to do this,
Yes.
right? But how? Okay, so let's maybe try and like in different situations,
Yes.
right? Because I think, a lot of people are like, yeah, I want to put boundaries, but how do I do this? So let's start with something easy like the workplace.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I think we have been programmed in life. I mean, guys, tell me if this is wrong, but I think we have been programmed for a really long time that we have to give 110% at
Right.
work. We have like, parang wala nang work-life balance. No, it's like you have to perform, especially moms, right?
Right.
Like that whole Barbie monologue. We have to be this, we have to be
Yes,
that.
yes, that's
So,
right.
and particularly in the workplace, it's very easy to give more than your scope.
Yes.
Right? I'm very comfortable with setting boundaries in the workplace. I think it's very important, So
Yeah.
what are some tips? What do boundaries in the workplace look like?
Okay, well, this is a little challenging for me because I love my job so much. So I always say, oh, I work 24/7.
Girl, your work-life integration.
Yes.
That's different. That's all like what you
Yes.
love to do. You found full ikigai. right?
Exactly. So it's really the alignment, right? Like, because I'm so aligned, it's okay. Like, it feels like it's not work actually. But just to be very concrete, I guess if you have like a workspace or you're going to the office, maybe that could be helpful.
And many of us are okay. Like many of us have work that we just have to do it.
That's
Because
right.
It gives us the abundance that we need to do other things and pursue other things. So it's okay. Work doesn't always have to be passionate.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
We can also recognize and honor and respect that our work allows us a lifestyle that we want, allows us to feed our children and our families, allows us to have a home,
Yes.
right? And that's fine. It doesn't have to
Right.
be very
Yeah,
something that makes you
that's right.
alive in a way,
Yes.
but we can do our work like wholeheartedly and sometimes too much, right?
Yes.
So,
So thanks for mentioning that, because I think like if you're working, it doesn't end, right?
Yes.
For one day. So there's another job that comes in, another assignment. But here's what you can actually do. Be very intentional. Like if you have a task on hand, what I personally do is that I actually be intentional for what that work gives out to the world. Like I actually pray over it and I say, okay, this task itself is a prayer, an open prayer, okay, for maybe people who are malnourished somehow. I'm sure you're understanding.
Yes.
Right? Like,
so channeling positive energy into your work.
like putting more meaning into your work, I
Yes.
think. That's so helpful. Like, oh, it has more meaning now.
So it actually fills your cup rather
That's
than
right.
drains you.
Correct.
Like personally, every time I'm feeling a little overstretched or overworked, I try to go back to my original contract. What is my job description? And what is my original scope of work?
Okay.
Because if I'm doing beyond my scope,
Mhm.
I have to ask myself, am I getting compensated more for it? Because fair energy exchange, right, guys? Like you still have to be compensated. So you don't want to you can't feel overworked for something that's within your scope with an agreed compensation. So if you're doing beyond that, maybe you need to have a chat with your boss about either fair compensation or scaling back the scope that's not in your original scope of work. So that's number one, guys. For me, communicate with your boss, communicate so that you never feel like you're giving too much and not being compensated enough. Also, like I set not physical boundaries, but after 5 p.m., I do not answer emails now, guys. Sorry. Maybe
Oh my gosh.
6 p.m. sometimes,
Yes.
but it's like I don't answer emails. I will not take a work call unless it's very important. Text me muna ako if you're just gonna call.
Right.
Like I'm with my kids. It's my time with my family, you know?
That's right.
So I think just also being strict about like not taking work to the bedroom,
Yes.
not taking work to the dining table, not like it's okay. You know?
I like that part that you set the time limit.
Yeah.
It's nice to also communicate that to, I guess,
Yes.
your boss or your workmates. Like, hey guys, at 6 p.m., like, you can't communicate with me anymore. Just verbalize it. I think everything is figure outable. Everything has a solution to it.
Correct.
You just really need to verbalize it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, unless you're a doctor in the ER and some other, like, those really life or death situations, most of our emails can wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
Promise.
I will say that, is anyone that dying because of not replying to this one? Nobody. So it's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also just, you know, throwing it out there for the people who work in different time zones. Because I have friends who are like that now. Yeah, but I have to answer because it's this time zone. I'm like, girl, parang, you think the people in France will reply to you when they're on vacation? They won't.
Oh, yeah.
Focus na lang yan. Because, you know, your family is as important and your personal life is as important. Right?
Again, like that's your value, right? You value your family. So it's so easy for you to say no to answering that because you're with your family.
Correct.
If somebody else's value isn't family and maybe the value is money, of course, this person will actually answer that call because they're going to earn money from that call.
Yeah.
So there are different scenarios. Just really align with the values.
Yes. Make sure that every time you do something, it's you feel fulfilled and happy to do it. Right? All right. So what about friendships? Ooh, so hard.
Gosh, yes.
I have a hard time sometimes.
Okay.
I'm such a yes person and nakikisama sa lahat. But sometimes, wala na. It's not the same trip. It's not the same interactions because people are on different journeys. Right?
Yes. Yeah. I recently learned that I'm actually an extrovert. I was in denial that I'm an extrovert.
Girl, you are extrovert.
Yes, extrovert.
Extrovert.
Yes. And actually I have different friendships. Like I have friends from grade school, high school, college, after college, work friends. I have healing friends, light worker friends, singing friends, etc. So whatever I need, I can reach out to them, and it's for a specific reason. So I also don't burn out my friendships. So I mean, if you guys are extroverts there as well, then you may do the same. I feel parang guilty if there's one person that I'm gonna keep going to or keep talking to.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that to that person.
But what about to you? Like, how do you keep your boundaries with your friendships?
For me, oh my gosh.
Like, sometimes I find it hard to say no to stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, I feel obliged or maybe they're trauma dumping on me too much or emotional dumping on me too much or I don't know. But most of the time, it's more like being tapped out. Like,
I think I've been doing my work for a long time already. So I have learned to verbalize really. I said, okay, sure, you can tell me like this afternoon for 3 hours. And then I'll say my piece. And then that's it. Because I've had experiences that like I have a friend who keeps telling me the same thing over and over again and said, you know what? If you tell me one more time or our friends one more time, you're going to lose friends. So she was like, oh my gosh, really? So she started to, I guess, reflect inwardly and then hired a therapist for it as well. We have boundaries. We need to have boundaries. So I give people certain timelines or deadlines. So coachy.
I think what's important is communication, right?
Yes.
So anytime you feel taken advantage of or whatever, or bullied, actually, sometimes they don't even know that they're doing what they're doing, right? Like, so I'll give an example. Some of my closest girlfriends and I, we've been planning to go on a girls' trip for a really long time. And they all really wanted to go to Paris, actually. So talagang, this is years in the making, ha? Parang I'm like, okay, first of all, guys, like, I need some time to work on my budget. And second, if I'm going to spend that much, I don't want to go to Paris, but they all did. So part of I felt like, do I have to go? Do I want to go? Like, oh my gosh, like, oh, then I'm fine. I'm gonna sit it out, and then it's like me and we've been planning. But I work hard for my money, and I don't want to go somewhere that I'm not 100% into, right?
Right.
So, someone encouraged me. Someone close to me was like, well, just tell them.
Right.
So I was like, you know what, girls? Like, I really want to go on this girls' trip. It will cost me a lot of money. I will save for it. But I don't want to spend that money going to Paris. I was, recently there. And to be honest, it held so much emotions from the past because I lived there before and I had a lot of breakups there. I want to go to the past. I want to go somewhere new. I want to go somewhere new, experience something new with you girls. And, let's find something. And hopefully we can find something with nature because, I am just eating, drinking, partying, right? I want something with nature, with adventure. Right. We can learn something new and do something new together. And you want these super understood.
Okay.
And all of them, basically said, okay, let's all find options together. And so now we're going.
I'm glad you're able to
somewhere
verbalize that. I think that's the healthiest sign that you are already setting boundaries for yourself.
And you know what? People will surprise you. Right?
Yes.
I think we have just so much fear that it's going to be received negatively. That's right. But the people who love you will actually step up, and accommodate your needs as well. Right?
Yeah. Something similar happened to me. And this is like, whoa, you did that. I said no to, I think, a maid of honor position.
Hi.
Can you imagine? Like, oh my gosh, maid of honor.
Hard to say no to that.
So hard to say no. But I was doing it for 2 people on the same year.
Okay.
So I said, you know what? Our other friend asked me already, and I can't divide myself for 2 parties, 2 extravaganzas. I can only do for 1 person this year. So I hope you understand. I mean, we're friends. I love you. You know that. I just can't deal with that position.
Yeah.
So it was okay. We're still friends. So I'm glad that I was able to verbalize that. It felt really light. So in case you're thinking of verbalizing something to someone, this is your sign.
Yes. There you go. Lastly, the hardest, family.
Oh my God.
How do you express to your family enough is enough? Ako pa ha, I'm the youngest of 5 kids. And then I'm a girl. My sister is abroad. So I'm kind of like the martyr. I'm the one who has to do everything for everyone. I take care of my parents. I'm expected to always be available. And it's very hard, and I'm expected to fit a certain way and be a certain way, right?
Yeah.
So
sure.
Family, how do we do this?
I guess verbalizing really is number 1 key. It's tough because it's family and you know how families are, right? Like they get their way. I don't know how that happens, but really verbalizing it and also being strong about it, like committed to what you just verbalized and not taking it back
Actually,
somehow.
that's important, right? The commitment to your decision.
Right. Yeah. Like for example, my job right now, I said, I'm gonna quit my current job and then I'll do my certifications and I'll do coaching. And they're like, they had no idea what this was, right? Like at that time. But they let me, and I really stuck to it because I didn't want them to think, like failure. Maybe she'll be rejected, all of these things. So I really stuck to it, committed to it, and went through with it. So commit.
For me, it's a bit more of like emotional boundaries as well. So I'm very close to my parents and, my father is aging and all the issues that come with aging. And there's a lot of stress on my mom to care for him. And, my parents are kind of that generation that they don't like therapy. So I became my mother's therapist. And and I always laugh. I'm like, my therapist earned na her money about me talking about my mom. Like childhood trauma and issues. We all have them. But, you know, there came a point where I was just this dumping ground for all her negative issues and stress and it, you know, I believe in energy transmission, right? So, you know, when she's calling me up like screaming or upset because my dad naman is stressing her out. So parang napapasa yung stress. And at some point that it just became so much that I would pass it on to my kids, right? Because the energy has to go somewhere. And, you know, I actually had to talk to my therapist again about this. Like, what do I do? Because I want to be there for my mom. But I also, you know, can't be an emotional dumping ground. And she was like, just tell her. Because you have to be there for your children. You can't pass that on to your children. You have to be your best self. And I realized, like, you know what, right now as a mother, I think I always saw myself as an extension of my parents. Whereas today, I am the head of my own family. So I'm just auxiliary because I have to raise two kids, right? And I have to be there for them. So I had to have a chat with my mom on one of those days where she was very stressed. And I looked at her and I said, Mom, I'm not your therapist. So, you know, let's find other ways for you to release your stress. Because to be honest, I'm not enjoying spending time with you anymore because you just dump on me. And I resent the fact that when I see you out with other people, you give your best to them and you give me your stressed out self. And, you know, it helped a lot. We took a little bit of space. And then now I've started to make an effort to do something fun with her every week.
I like it that you broke a pattern.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I don't have to be the punching bag. I can be there for you. I can be a good daughter. I can spend time with you, but I don't need to be your punching bag, like emotional punching bag. Right?
I'm glad that you were able to go through and you're done with that.
Yes, but you know what I realize also, even if we think they can't change, they do because they love you. Right? So if there's one takeaway here is the people who really love you will come around. They will come around. They will understand that you also have your needs. And you just have to trust that. Right? You have to trust that they will. And if they don't, as painful as it is, you just release and accept they are on their own journey. They have their own karmic path. So, and that's okay.
Yes.
Absolutely. All right. So one last thing, hon. One thing we can do today to change this. One thing we can do today to have healthier boundaries.
I would suggest, because in coaching there, I call it heart work, like a homework, but coming from your heart. So hopefully, if you really want to try and change and create boundaries for yourself, well, number one would be, there are so many tests online for your values. Like, check out what your values are so that you learn more about yourself. So self-knowledge, right? And then you can actually create a list, a daily list of things that you actually want to accomplish for yourself, and then some stuff for others. But just make sure that the ratio would be like 5 for yourself, 2 for others, like more for you all the time. And then when you're done with the things for yourself, then do some for others. But just really list it down. It's different when you write things down and then you cross it out or you do check marks. So this is like a literal exercise that you can do so that you can start creating boundaries for yourself.
That's amazing. I love that. You know, my one thing to do, take 10 minutes alone. And alone without your phone. Because you're not really alone, right? Like, so take 10 minutes alone. Journal, read, enjoy that cup of coffee, and tell your kids, if you have kids at home, don't bug me muna. Mama, my kids know Mama has alone time. You know, I like, and they also know I encourage them if they need alone time, take your alone time. But take 10 minutes for yourself to do whatever you want except doom scroll. Just sit with yourself and enjoy the moment with yourself and take a pause to breathe.
What do you usually do on those 10 minutes?
I drink my cacao and I read.
Okay.
I also hug my dog. My dog is like my emotional support animal. Yes, I hug my dog. I drink my cacao. I read. I take it every morning. I take 30 minutes to an hour by myself every morning. I send my kids off to school and I do my thing before I start the day so that I know that I have enough to get through the day, that my cup is full. I start my day slower, but I am much more productive and much more present for everyone who needs me.
I love that. I call it sacred mornings, really. Like really having time for yourself, slowing down, and yes, filling up your cup so you may give from your overflow.
All right. So maybe, Kimi, you can tell our audience where they can find you.
Yes, you can easily find me on Instagram. It's Kimi Lu Life Coach. And I also have a website. It's www.kimilulifecoach.com. You can see the other programs and other free stuff, actually, that you can sign up for. So go ahead and visit the website.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us today. I hope you have a better idea of what your healthy boundaries look like. And I hope we've helped you try and craft them. So take a moment today and list those things down. And thank you for joining us on Soulful Feast, bite-sized information to nourish your body, mind, and spirit.